I'm a man.
I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm a man.
Well, we welcome you today in this beautiful Men on Track program that is entitled Men Talk to Men. And once again, this morning I've got gentlemen here who will be helping us to dissect and also to put more understanding to the topic that we'll be dealing with today. Let me just start by welcoming each one of them. Gentlemen, Sanbonan,
Madoda.
are you all right, guys?
All is good, Bishop.
Please introduce yourselves so that we can continue with the program today. I'll start with you.
Greetings to you men out there. My name is Pastor Boyki Mudise, but I go by the name Psalmist Boyki Mudise. Yeah.
Greetings, saints. My name is Pastor June Tsotezi.
Can you zoom a little bit this way so that they can see how masculine this man is? He's all right. Can you see that?
I am a man.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue with our introductions.
Greetings, Bishop. Greetings, my daughter out there. My name is Tabisos Kosana. Yeah, I am a man on track. I love this organization. I can easily say that I am #1 supporter of Man on Track.
Next time we must tell people why you must never take a picture next to me. He makes me look like a midget, but it's okay. He's the tallest man in the team here.
Greetings, Babugeli. My name is Ramsebi Murabe. I am a man.
Thank you so much. We have Ndate Murabe with us here today, who is our in-house psychologist here at Men on Track. So we are well armed. Gentlemen, last time when we spoke, we were talking about the impact of lockdown on us as men. And you were all sharing a lot of things that were interesting, talking about the observations you made, the time you spent with your family. And it was in that time that the subject of gender-based violence, which escalated during this time, cropped up. And today we want to go into that particular subject. Gender-based violence during the period of lockdown. You know, South Africa is an interesting country, but we really came face to face with the utmost ugliness of this thing called gender-based violence. It was so rife. It was happening almost like on a daily basis, and we heard of women being raped, women being killed in a gruesome way, and also we were exposed to this terrible thing. And so I would like us to talk about it, because even the president called it the second pandemic. But of course, the truth is, it's the first.
Yes.
It has been there in this country, and it has been, you know.
And it was never noticed as the first pandemic.
You're correct. You're correct. But the truth is, it is the first pandemic in this country. Corona was just something that came by, just to put a spotlight on it once again. So, Dadem Rabe, maybe let's start with you, just to explain what do we mean by gender-based violence, and how does it and women abuse? How do you put these things together?
Yeah. No, thank you, Bishop. I just want to say, during the lockdown, this issue of gender-based violence was exposed. I think as a nation we're really, really exposed. Like you just mentioned, this issue has been there for a very long time, but I think this time it was really, really exposed. And given the circumstances, I think the ugliness of this thing, we began seeing, the ugliness of this thing and the seriousness thereof. you know. But let's get down to the issue, gender-based violence, what it is, you know. Actually, you know, the important word here is violence. You know, violence that is directed, you know, at an individual based on his or her biological sex. You know, and I just want to emphasize something here: his or her. You know, it doesn't only happen, you know, with females. You know, it can also happen, you know, with men as a recipient of this type of violence, you know. So it is based on his or based on biological sex or gender identity, you know, the fact that maybe you are a man, the fact that maybe you are a woman, you know. And what does it include? You know, in a include into trading, like for instance, physical, you know, sexual, verbal, emotional, and psychological abuse. You know, in some instances, yes, physical, more you know, the victim, you know, wa shapua, you know, or banally physical harm, where physical harm, you know, is imputed on a person, you know, and and more often in South Africa, refumana happen sexual in nature, you know, and then verbal as well, emotional, and what is important is that, you know, the emotional one, it's so rife in South Africa, but we tend to focus more on the physical, excuse me, and the sexual, you know, but the emotional one is very serious as well, you know, and the psychological abuse. Yeah.
And the emotional one eventually will lead to violence.
It does. It does. It does. Look, uh, as a person, you've got the physical realm, you know, the spiritual, and the emotional and the psychological, you know. So the emotional, it's very dangerous because when you deal with the emotional, o bola motho ka hare. O bolaile motho ka hare. You know, physically, re ka nna ra o bona, you know, ha ba o shapile, o ruile leihlo le i-one. You know, and then spiritually, you know, sometimes ra o bona, you're dejected, you know, also the signs that despair. But emotionally, you know, ko o bolaile motho ka hare, o shwele, you know, o shwele altogether a le ka hare.
You know, this, I think humiliating a person is at its worst when Ashapuelo Motomuhulu.
Sure.
You know, I think it is, for me, this is the worst form of humiliation.
Yes, that's right. You mentioned something very important, Bishop. You know, the issue of humiliation. You know, and it's something that we also need to touch on. You know, it looks like, you know, there are certain people who thrives, you know, on just humiliating other people. You know, and it baffles my mind, you know, as to whether ntwena e hlaha kae you know, ya ho humiliate, you know. But how na ntho e bohloko jwalo ka hore o shape motho, you know, a moholo, wa utlwisisa, o mo shape. That in itself is humiliating, very painful. You know, it's very sad. It's very sad.
Pastor Boyke, you as the person who interviews a lot of people on radio and all that, in general, what do they say is the cause of gender-based violence?
Thank you, Bishop. Most of the, the causes to this, they go back to childhood. They go back to how a person was raised. Ntate Mrabe is talking about emotional investment, in that mentorship from fathers. If maybe we're just focusing on the main side, not talking about the one coming from the female side, you find that the reasoning capacity is not really that filled, or is not that high on the boys' side or on the men side, such that instead of me being able to reason, you find that as children are growing, girls are taught being prepared for marriage, being prepared for saving a husband, and. But with the boy child, you find that there's lack, because we somehow trust in that he will be a man, but without mentoring him in his character. So when he comes into a situation where he has to reason with a female counterpart, instead of being able to be on the same level, now he's tend to be physical more, because now as soon as he can't reason, then he goes "Kitlaw, kitlaw, kitlaw." And this is one of the main reason, and hence most people would say we are dealing with the symptoms of the problem that has started years ago. For the past 30 years, this guy has been abused emotionally. He's empty emotionally. So when he meets this woman, and the woman is showing signs of authority and that, he feels, instead of reasoning, he feels threatened as a leader, that his position is threatened. And the best way to respond to that is be physical, because that's what he's got naturally.
So, right there, gentlemen, you need to help me. You know, there's this thing that men don't talk.
Yeah.
But find men talking to men. They can talk the whole day and analyze a match and whatever. So how can we say that then the men, because men are analytic, they debate, you know. So how can we say that when he can't reason with a woman, then he gets violent?
Yes, Bishop. I take the issue of, men are analytic, and they can reason, But I think we need to take it further, and say beyond that, what is the outcome,
Sure.
you know? And sadly, sadly, most of the time beyond those analytical debates, and whatever that man has, but nothing, concrete, that contributes positively, to the well-being of an individual, even to the well-being of others, It it seldom comes out, and really that is my concern,
Any other reasons, gentlemen?
Bishop,
Why do you think, what causes this gender-based violence according to your observation?
I think, Bishop, you're touching on a crucial point, and especially that we normally would talk about and say one of the elements that's a pleasure men on to communicate and not to sulk. And I think you're touching on a point ya hore banna ha ba bue, re na le ntho ya hore banna ha ba bue. But I think most of the things, they actually start when you don't talk. And I don't understand, as a leader or as a head of the family, if you don't communicate, what is going to come out of what is the results going to be. And I think the most important thing, and the cause of the gender-based violence most of the time, is because we don't talk.
Sure, sure.
And another thing, Bishop, is that you'll find that it's the upbringing. Most of the time, as a young boy, when you are growing up, if you do something wrong, the mother would always say, "Ke tlo mo jwetsa ntate wa hao ha a fihla mo." So the only time you'll know about the father, you'll know about the father as a disciplinarian. You know a father jwale ka motho a tlo nshapa ha a fihla. But we never sat down and reasoned things, and then, like, for example, I was never asked why I did whatever that I did at the same time. And then the father, when he comes at home, he will just say, "Kutlwa mme wa hao a re o entse so," and then he will just beat you up. That's how we've been brought up. And I think we took this thing into other generations as well. So it continued until this time.
Just also to add on that, Bishop, society also has a way of influencing us in how we behave as well, because the mindset that men don't talk, it's not something that just came up. It's something that was grown in a man. That as a man, monna ke nku ha lle, such things. They create this persona in us, that as a man you have to be strong, you have to be, you must, and remember, these are expectations, but those expectations, we don't really look at investing in building that concrete foundation so that this person can be able to handle the situations. What we do is we expect him to, it's like motho a sa yang sekolong, but be re mo lebella hore tshwantse a tsebe ho ngola. O le mokana-kana ha o tsebe ho ngola. That's the thing. You're a man, so it's like, if I can just say this, yesterday I was a guy, a boy, okay, with my friends, having fun, doing whatever that I'm doing. Then after a few hours, I say I do in front of the preacher. After saying that, now everything is suddenly turning. I'm expected to be this responsible being, have this, responsible for that and that and that and that. But it's just a matter of hours. I was not prepared for all this. So by the time she has been prepared from childhood, I'm only told, window damage, unalemsadi. So the next thing, I'm expected to behave in something that is not in me.
Okay. Any other points on this issue of the causes?
Yeah,
I'm listening attentively as you are bringing these points out.
Can I just be controversial a little bit, just to stimulate, some discussion, and I'll just put it this way, Bishop, ha o le motho wa ntate, o ska qala ntho se- o sena- o sa e tsebeng, o ska qala ntho o senang yona, ke ya kae ka taba ena, um, you cannot give what you don't have, you cannot give, kore ke ya tabeng gender-based violence in the context, mo e leng hore ho na le mosadi le monna ba nyalaneng, more often it happens because monna o he's expected a rate mosadi wa hae, but hana lerato leo. So hana lona. So the fact that ha kgone ho fana ka ntho e expected ho yena, so it leaves us some confusion, and then who compensate for that, who compensate ka tsela e wrong, instead of going back, to go and learn, what is it to love, my wife, what is it to love another person, so compensate ka tsela e wrong, ya hore no, maybe if ke behavior change, but most of the time you ask the guys, it is because basically, what is expected of him, it's
Yeah.
not there.
May I challenge what Ntate Mrabe is saying, in that, well, I could be expected to go back and learn, but who do I learn that from?
Yeah.
Because even my father would not be playing or displaying. I mean, growing up somewhere, it's very rare for ntate wa ka a sune mme wa ka in my presence. It was something taboo. Like you would expect that. So being expected to be able to show love that I've never seen in my 30 years. I've never seen in my 40 years. So now I am 32. I want to get married. I need to show this girl who's been prepared. Kgale a jwetsuwa yena hore, "Hlatswa dijana, koloma ka ntlo, do this, do that." For me, there wasn't such. I'm told, Mfanak, Yaspani, Harry Yaspani. But
Yeah, Pastor Boyki, he's
Yes.
saying that when Halum Shumani, anything that happens in the house, it's Tsama lo bapala.
Yes.
O bapala ka ntle, ngwana ngwanyana o bitsetswa ka tlung, a tlo thusa ho sebetsa.
Sure,
So when you get into that area, you don't know what to do.
Well, here's another thing that I wouldn't like us to avoid. I want to understand this one. They said as soon as the bottle stores were opened, and then suddenly this thing escalated even more.
Yeah.
Is it the drinking that escalates it, or what happened there?
Let me come from the psychological side. Bishop, the problem runs deeper. We've come to realize that jwala the alcohol kinto fela e thusang we get
catalyst.
it's a catalyst, But generally there is that sense of emptiness,
sure.
of brokenness in men, And how do you deal with that? If you don't have effective strategies, it's how this emptiness, this brokenness, So a person will matter somewhere, money mo tlamehile a nwe teng. And then jwale ha sa nwele mone, emptiness e le ha e kopana le lack of purpose, ho phelela eng. And then a person becomes so frustrated, o pula bophelong ba ka ne tshwantse be se ke le mona ha ke mona, then o qala ntshetsa maloko be batho ba sele.
Well, here's another thing. This thing is not done by people who don't seem to have a purpose. You find it amongst intellectuals, you find it amongst politicians, you find it amongst the rich. You find it's like a devil that is all over the show. So bail me out there.
Like-
Sorry, maybe we just need to come to a term of, an empty intellectual.
Yeah.
If there's if there's a concept like that,
Yeah.
really, I'll
There's
just leave it there.
intellectual intelligence,
Yeah.
there's emotional
Intelligence.
intelligence. Now, somebody could be an academic, be studied, and somebody whom we respect because of their accolades and all that. But emotionally, you find that this person is actually empty. There's adversity intelligence, where one needs to know how to deal with challenges. If you are, for example, Bishop, it's very rare, hore, if you have a different opinion to what I'm saying, hore ke nke hore, no, but it's a debate. You're not personally attacking me. So because of not being filled, I don't have the balance. And emotionally, talking of emotional intelligence, I don't have the balance to see that you're not fighting against me. You just have a different opinion. But you remember we usually make a joke and say there's a certain group of people. This guy compliments somebody and say, hey, this girl looks beautiful. And then this guy comes and says, I'm shy, I mean. And now it just tells you.
And I think just to add on that, even Komsebezin that Mrabi will agree with me, hore, that Skosana as a manager, when you interview a person, I think emotional intelligence is very key. Because it doesn't matter how qualified the person is. Mara, you want to check or this person will be able to work. le batho ba bang hantle na. So for the fact ya hore ba kgona ho shapa mosadi, that thing on its own, to humiliate other people, it makes you feel better about yourself.
Bishop, can I just add something? I had an opportunity, sort of coach, some senior managers, and then there was this one specific guy, very successful, in the corporate world, very, very, very successful. I mean, most of the people were looking up to him. But when we had one-on-one, this guy says, I'm well known in this organization, this and this, but I don't have a family to go back to.
Sure.
Are bana ba ka le mosadi ha ba batle ho utlwa niks. Yaka even le tjhelete ya ka ha ba batle ho e bona niks, Mona ke appear as if ke full, but deep down, I'm empty. Ha ke ya hae, I'm a monster.
Now, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. Let's talk about the degree,
Yeah.
of this violence.
Sure.
There are beatings, but then there are killings,
Sure.
gruesome killings, women being beheaded, women being burned, their bodies being chopped into pieces and packed up in plastic bags, and so what brings that type of, not that just beating is okay,
Yeah.
but the degree to which this goes now. I mean, you look at that field in KZN where they were just finding raped women, killed, and it's like these women were used as token of showing masculinity and power.
Yeah.
So let's get to that. Why such a gruesome way?
Yeah. Bishop, you mentioned something. Can I quickly maybe just quote some few stats,
Yes.
GBV in South Africa, because they say here more than half of all the women made at 56% recently were killed by an intimate male partner, and they say between 25 and 40% of South African women have experienced sexual and physical, abuse in their lifetime. Just under 50% of women reporting having ever experienced emotional or economic abuse at the hands of their intimate partners in their lifetime, And the prevalence estimates of rape in South Africa ranges between 12 and 28% of women ever reporting being raped in their lifetime. By reporting them fair. And they say between 28 and 37% of adult men report having raped a woman, somewhere in their lifetime. Yeah, so these are some of the stats. I'm just talking about the South African stats.
This is terrible, gentlemen.
Wow.
It is.
This is terrible, and this is one subject that we need to really, really go deep into and talk about it. And people who are listening, some of the people who are listening, eventually would see how terrible this is, and refrain maybe from doing this type of thing. But I think one of the things that we need to do, uh, we have to just quickly, in closing now, just quickly, uh, why did this get worse during lockdown?
Bishop, lockdown took us all by surprise. And then when you look at lockdown itself, it's more like confinement. So now confinement is fostering the tension in the family, and then it's also fostering strain that is characterized by economic uncertainties. So when the president mentioned that there's going to be, when the president mentioned that there's going to be a lockdown, obviously what comes first in your mind is like, what's going to happen to my job? What's going to happen to the economy of the country and all those things? Those uncertainties, then they were fostered by this confinement. And the financial strains as well, to say, okay, if I lose a job, what's going to happen? And then another thing that Ntatem Rabi has mentioned, the emotional strain. So it's a confinement. We find ourselves being confined into a space. Now, these women are confined with their abusers. Remember, initially before the lockdown, you'll get help from somewhere. But this time you are confined with this person. The abuser is here with you, and then you are continuously being abused without reporting to any other person. So that's why it escalated. And then it also created an opportunity for violent behavior behind closed doors. Obviously, it happened this time, and then nobody knew about it. And so these perpetrators, they really continued about it. Hence, you'll hear from the news that the stats really went high.
So again, Bishop, I think the most important thing that when listening to Pastor Todette is that there's actually a gap there. COVID has disrupted our lives. We are confined.
Yeah.
Now, the very same thing that we spoke about last week, to say that what are the positives that came with the COVID? We said that it brought us closer to our families, that engagement. So when these things happen, they actually identify that gap to say that these things that we were talking about, that it brought that closer to our families, it did not happen in other families. Because when you not actually, I'm going back to communicate and not to sulk, all those items, yes, they are challenges, but you have a suitable partner. You have somebody that you need to engage with. You have somebody that you have to share your challenges with. And when those things are happening, you together, because you complement each other, you can help each other to resolve those issues. But if that communication engagement does not happen, it means that there is a gap.
Yeah, also, Bishop, just maybe shortly, the, the main issue here is that there's a saying that says an idle mind is the devil's playground or workshop. Okay, so most of us are filled, our program, our minds are filled with going to work, filling up a program for the day, which is not really my program, but it's the work program. So I'm busy the whole day doing the work program, but I don't have a personal program. And as a result, if the work program is taken away, now I'm left with a big vacuum where I've got I'm used to being at work from 8 to 8 or whatever time. So that 8 to 8, when you remove it, then I'm left stranded. And that's when these other people are now in my spaces, because I've got my internal challenges that I've got. I don't know what to do with this time.
And sometimes, have you ever felt being trapped in a hole?
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden they felt like I'm trapped.
Yes.
And then the trap part of it is the perpetrator is trapped in a hole with the person that he's going to abuse. And then even the woman is trapped
Sure.
with the abuser. So it was just that thing that made it to escalate.
It's a force against force. So, yeah.
Well, gentlemen, this is getting hot. And I would like to say to the listener there, please don't stop with us here on part one.
Sure.
Part two is coming. And we're going to be elaborating more on the subject. And we are here to help. We are here. We are not here to cast stones. We are here to help both the perpetrator and both the recipient of this violence. We are here to help you and to help your family. But for the moment now, and I think where we're going to close this, you see, we are talking as men here. We need to close where we will bring in women here.
Sure.
That they must also bring in their side, what they experienced during this lockdown. But for now, we say, join men who boldly declare,
I am a man.